In the last video, we ended up setting up our HTTP request to fire off to our backend server. Now, up to this point, we've been working strictly pretty much on our client side. But now that we're making our first request here to our backend server, we are trying to hit this API endpoint. Okay, so now we're gonna have to get the server involved, the backend, to send the user data that was placed here. So what I want to do in this video is I want to start making that connection with the client and server so they can start communicating. Okay, but there are a few things we're gonna have to do here to get started or to make this thing happen. I have a list of things that I want to install. Mainly these things right here, or I should say these two here, because this one here is actually part of the Express library, and we have it installed already. So let's get started with CORS. But before I install this, what is CORS? So CORS stands for Cross-Origin Resource Sharing. So the purpose of this is because we are actually running our application. We're going to be running it on the front end, which is running on port 3000, and the back end, which is running on port 5000. Now, I know when I was first getting started, I was thinking that I wouldn't have an issue with CORS, because I was thinking as long as we're running, I guess, on the same domain. So in development, I'm running on local host, it should be good. The port number shouldn't make a difference, even if it's a different number, but it does. And if we don't install and use CORS, we're gonna run into errors and issues. Okay, and let me show you that in the documentation here. If we look under developer Mozilla, okay, over here it says a web application executes a cross-origin HTTP request when it requests a resource that has a different origin. Okay, for me, I thought it was just applicable to domain, but as you can see here, it applies domain, protocol, or port. Okay, so we have to install that. Okay, and this is the definition here given by Mozilla. So CORS is a mechanism that uses additional HTTP headers to tell browsers to give a web application running at one origin access to a selected resources from a different origin. Okay, so let's go back here. I am going to install, we are in the root directory. I'm going to do npm install CORS. And I'm going to close up my client folder so I don't get confused here with the package.json, because I want the package.json from our server side. Okay, and we see here in the dependencies, we got CORS. Okay, so it's installed. Good. All right, so we have that installed now, and we gave a definition, or we gave a brief introduction as to what's its use. Actually, let me go to server.js. Okay, this is going to be the main file that lies within our server. Okay, and I'm going to bring in the CORS here. I'm going to bring it right on the app, our Express application. I'm going to do CORS equals require, and then CORS. Okay, so we brought it in. Now we have to make use of this, and I'm gonna make a note here, a comment, and put middleware. So this is app use, and then we're gonna instantiate CORS here. So now we have CORS being applied as a middleware to our application. Okay, so that's taken care of. Okay, so let me mark this off here. Okay. Oh, did I? Oh, I deleted CORS for some reason. Okay, sorry about that. All right, so let me mark off CORS. Okay, now Morgan. We're gonna have to use Morgan. Okay, so let's go over here. Let's same thing. Let's do check documentation for Morgan. This npm Morgan. So Morgan is an HTTP request logger middleware for Node.js. Okay, so in our terminal or on the server side, when there's a request from the client to the server, whether it be a GET request, a POST request, PUT, or delete, or anything, any request to the server from the client, we could get a log information, and that's what Morgan does. Is Morgan provides us, it tells us information whether like if it was a bad request, if everything was okay with a status code of 200, and it tells us like the response time, how long it took. So it's very helpful. So that's what Morgan is for. So let's go ahead and install that. Npm Install Morgan. Oh, and before I forget, it's actually, we're gonna save it as a save under our dev dependencies. Okay, so not for production, but for our just for development purposes. So that's what this right here is for. -- save - dev. Okay, and then press enter. Let it load. And make sure in our package.json. This one right here, I put under dependencies because in my GitHub, I was receiving an error message to tell me to that this was necessary to install this. So I was getting the errors, and once I installed it here, the error went away. So anyways, you might not get it, but if you do, you'll get some kind of a notice to install it. But anyways, that's what the purpose is here, to remove those errors from my GitHub. Okay, so now here, as I mentioned, dev dependencies, we got Morgan. So now we have our logger system. Okay, so just like with the CORS, we have to bring that in. So right under CORS, I'm going to do const Morgan. Require Morgan, and here under middleware, app use, and then Morgan, and then in parentheses we put dev. Okay, to specify that this is for development. Okay, so that's should be good there. All right, so we installed Morgan. All right, next, Express.json. Okay, Express.json. I'm gonna close this package up. Where we go? Let me adjust this here. Go to my server. So also as a middleware, I am going to use Express from the Express library. We have it here already available to us. There's a middleware called JSON. Okay, this allows us to parse incoming requests in JSON, in the format of a JSON. Okay, we are going to be sending most of our form data and our data from the front to the back in the format of a JSON format. Okay, so let me pull up documentation here, see if we can get some more information on that. So let's jump into this is the documentation for Express. Okay, so here okay, built-in middleware function requests. Okay, so this is a built-in middleware function in Express. It parses incoming requests with JSON payloads and is based on body.parser. Okay. And this is important to note right here. So returns middleware that only parses JSON and only looks at requests where the content type header matches the type. Now remember, I don't know if you recall, but content type we actually if here, let me show you here in the last video, I believe over here, right? When we made our function here, our sign up function here to make our first request, we set up a headers here. And what did I have here as a property? I had content type, and the value I gave was applications/JSON. Okay, and that's what it's saying here, is that it only looks at requests where the content type header matches the type. What is the type here? Well, that is over here. It's saying, oh, if we look at under property type here, we see by default Express sets it to application/JSON. So this right here, this type, which is set by default application/JSON, matches what we set up in the header. Okay, so that's important to note that. So for this reason, when you make your HTTP request, if you're going to send off JSON data, make sure you set up your headers here with the content type application/JSON. Okay. All right. So okay, did I bring it in? No, I didn't bring. Yes, I did bring it in. Okay, here. So I brought in my middleware express.json with parentheses. Okay, good. So now let's mark that off here. Set up scripts in package.json. Okay, so as I mentioned earlier in the video, is that we have to start creating a connection for our client and server to communicate with each other. Okay, and we are going to have to go into our package.json on the server side. Okay, not the client side, but the package.json on the server side. Okay, and here we see we have a few scripts already. Okay, this was the one we were using every time, right? To start off the server, I was doing npm run start -server, this command here, which in turn executes this here, runs a node man, or turns on node man to run our server. Okay, but now I want to set up another script. Okay, I want to create a script here that will execute our client side. So instead of me having to go to change directories into the client and then run npm start to start running our React application, I'm going to set up a script on the server side, package.json. And the way I'm going to do that is I'm going to do start client. Let me do start client. Okay, and here I'm going to do I'm going to do npm, where is it? Npm run start. What's it? Npm start. Okay, this was the command that we used, npm start, within our client directory. But remember, we are not in the client directory now. We're actually outside of it. So we are here in this package.json. If you look over here to the left, I'm pointing here. So we have to first go into the client and then run this command. So we have to put here -- prefix and then client. Okay, so this is saying that to first, with the prefix, to first go into the client directory and then run npm start. Okay, so let's save this and give it a try to make sure it even works. So here I'm going to clear the console up and I'm going to test this out. So I'm going to do npm run start client. Okay, so far so good. It looks like it's working. So we should have another window that's going to open automatically. React's going to open for us, import 3000. Okay, you see? Good. As I said. Okay, so it's working. Good. So we didn't have to do change directory into client and then run a command. Okay, so that's good. So we know now that we can run this command here to run our server our client-side server or React application, and this is our command to run the server on the back end. So I'm going to open another window up here, and I'm going to do npm start server, or I'm sorry, npm run start server. Okay, and we've been using this in the previous videos, so we shouldn't have issues. Okay, so we see we have two terminals open though, right? And so when we're in development and we use create React app to create our to start up our React application, right? React runs on its own server on the client side, and that's running, it has its own server. Whereas if we want to go to our backend, we have to run it on a separate server, on a Node or an Express server running with Node.js. Okay, so these are two separate servers. Now, as you can see here, I have two separate windows, and well, I could continue with my application, building off my application and running these and having these two terminals or servers running individually in two separate terminals, just like I am right now. Okay, and they will function. Okay, I would be able to make my client side HTTP request to the server. However, wouldn't it be ideal or better if we can run both of these terminals together concurrently as one? Well, we can, and that's what I'm going to do right now with a package called Concurrently. It's going to allow us to, instead of having these two separate terminals running, we can have one terminal and both of them running together. Okay, so let's bring that in. I'm going to close first. I'm going to shut off my server on the server side. Okay, right here, and I'm going to bring in a package called Npm Install Concurrently. Okay, and this should show up on our dependencies. However, I should have put it under dev dependencies, and I'm going to make that adjustment right now. Once I install this here, okay, it went in. I'm going to uninstall it and then install it back, but under dev dependencies. That was a little mistake there. Uninstall concurrently. Okay, so I'm going to uninstall it, so it should disappear from here. Okay, because once we get into production, both applications, both the React and our Node.js server, or our Node.js with Express, they're going to be running on the same server. So that's why we don't need it over here. It's only for our development. But in production, we are not going to need that. So here, let me start off again. I'm going to do npm install concurrently, and then save dev to save under dev dependencies here. What is going? Let me see here. Set up scripts in package.json. Okay, we are working on that. Okay. Okay, so we have concurrently installed. Okay, so now let's make use of it. So we are gonna go back to okay, package.json, right? Let's continue on with making our scripts. So now you see we have a shortcut command for executing our server for the back end, and we have a shortcut start client to start up our server, our React server. Okay, so now let's bundle them or run them together, and that's where concurrently is going to come. So here I'm going to do concurrently, and in parentheses I'm going to do concurrently, and we're going to have to escape these quotes. This looks confusing. Again, give me a second, because there's a lot of quotes going on, and but let me see. All right. So in this field here, what I'm going to do is I'm doing npm run, and then this right here. We're going to place our start server command here, and then in this portion here, we're going to do npm run, and then copy this command here and paste it right in there. Okay, so this is saying concurrently execute these two: our server, our command to run the server, and our command to run the client. Okay, so let's give that a try and see how that works. I'm going to save, and then here, oh no, I'm sorry. Sorry. What I want to call this is dev. Yeah. Okay. This is the command I want to use to execute all this right here. So don't use concurrently here. I mean, if you want, you could, but I'm going to put dev. It's short and simple. So here, let me execute that command. Make sure I saved. So I'm in the root directory, and I'm going to do npm run dev, which is this right here. So let's give that a shot. So this should run the server first. Okay, good. You see it's running the server first. Listening on port 5000, database connection. Okay, next I'm expecting that now it's going to run the client side, React server. Something is already running on port 3000. Okay. What happened there? Okay. Let me close this up here. Okay. Okay, let me start again. Let me try this again. Okay, npm run dev. Okay, the server's running. Something's running on port 3000. Oh, okay, I see. Okay, look over here, guys. Right to the terminal on the left, on the other side, we have our React application running, right, and it's on port 3000. So that's why there's a conflict there. So let me clear this up. Let me cancel, and let me go here and cancel my React application here. Okay, let me close this screen here. And now in one terminal I can run this. Okay, so now it should work. Okay, so now npm run dev. Okay, server's running, and now the client should run. There we go. All right, starting development server. Perfect. So now it's opening our React application on port 3000. Let me close these windows here. Good. All right, so we got our application here, and let's see, set up scripts in package.json. So we are running both of them together. Okay, so let's mark this one up. Set up scripts in package.json, install concurrently. Okay, good. Now I want to show you that really quickly before I finish this off. So we already know that the client side React, the React on our client side is running, right, on port 3000. But let's make sure that the server is running, right? So we're going to do that, and it should be it's port 5000. Okay, we get a cannot get, but that's okay. That's because we haven't created a route to the backend yet. But this still shows that we have access. That it's working though. This is a good sign. But let me go even further, and I'm gonna go to server.js, and it's saying, okay. Oh no. Wait, where are we? Okay. Here. Okay, so here, if I refresh it, okay, so here can I get this, a / right? That's our main, that's the main route on the backend. So I am going to set up, for testing purposes here, a little route, just to test that it's working. So app get, I'm going to make a get request, and / right here, and we are going to do request. The second is we're going to do the callback with the request response, or yeah, there's a function with the request and response here, and I'm going to send back as a response. I'm going to send response.send, and I'm going to put inside server. Okay, save that, and let's check it out. If I refresh this, inside server, good. So now you see we have our client-side server and our backend server both running, and both of them running together with concurrently that we brought in, that we installed. Okay, so that's it for this video. Thank you very much.